And you've just heard Ultraviolet, the latest single from Only You. And I'm delighted to be joined now by Kris from the band. Hello, Kris.
How you doing, Ali?
I'm good, thanks, really good. So what can you tell us about Ultraviolet?
Ultraviolet, well, Ultraviolet is very, very kind of, any song that I write will always more or less be a love song. That's pretty much, you know, my kind of writing style. But so that's essentially what it is. It's a love song, but it was also sort of born from, I basically went on a bit of a Chris Nolan binge, as you do sometimes, and you know, went through all the usual Chris Nolan movies, and then eventually got to Interstellar, and I love Interstellar. There's a great message in it, and then sort of just imagined that, you know, writing a song essentially from like the Matthew McConaughey character, his perspective. He's out in space, he's trying to get back to his daughter. So kind of generalize that and just, you know, sort of imagine that sort of situation of being anywhere, lost anywhere, and trying to get back to, you know, the person that you love or the people that you love or anything. So that's essentially what the song's about. It's
interesting because I hadn't thought about that film for a long time. I remember actually going to see it in IMAX, which is one of the few films in IMAX. But it's a really powerful film, and that idea that it's almost impossible to get back, but just through doing it through sheer will, it's a really strong one to do. And I know that you made a video to accompany the single.
Yeah. So the video, obviously, pandemic and all that. You know, we were always kind of. It wasn't 100% whether we would actually get to shoot the video on the days that we could do, and we shot it at the Govan Shed, and because there was other productions there, and I think the new Matrix film was shooting there, and I think Disney were there doing something as well. So we were basically always trying to get a little gap, you know, in who'd sort of rented out the space, and thankfully we got it. Because I think the pandemic meant that Warner Brothers couldn't come in until like a week later, and that sort of opened it up for us. And then it was like, right, let's get in there and get it done. And the video itself is just a kind of, it's more performance based, but you know, obviously with the song being called Ultraviolet, there's lots of purple and pinky lights and blues and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that out as well. Can't wait.
It's a striking video, striking imagery, and I did notice that on the credits you had someone who was credited for the lighting. Is it, you know, that was almost as important.
Yeah, and that was Neil McMillan, who is I think he's the sort of like resident you know, sound technician at the Govan Shed, but I know he also does sort of, you know, loads of freelance stuff. But we actually noticed his work through North Atlas. So North Atlas sort of worked with him and the director Rory Barber Fleming, and we seen the work that they did on the North Atlas video, and I was like, do you know what, that's the guys I want for this video. So and no doubt, I think for the next single, which hopefully will be out before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure we're probably going to go back to them as well, and do something, you know, something similar but not the same, of course, but we'll see.
Just going back to what you said earlier, I think you were saying then that the call sheet for Govan Shed was The Matrix, Only You, and then Batman. Is that kind of what you suggested?
No, it was Disney. It was so Disney were doing something there, like, you know, maybe like literally it was Disney, us, and then Warner Brothers in for The Matrix. You know, I don't know when. I mean, the space was empty when we were there, so I think what happened was that Warner Brothers couldn't come in for another week after, and luckily that opened up. So there we go.
It's a good company to be in. There's no doubt about it.
Aye, and to be honest, very kindly, the producers of The Matrix were happy that, you know, even if there was a bit of an overlap, we could sort of split the space, and they would even go half as with us, you know, on the day. But luckily, we had the whole space, so we were all good. But that's the kind of thing. But that's essentially what's happened. You know yourself. You know, you spoke to, you know, enough bands and artists and all that, and the pandemic essentially, you know, meant that you had to make really good use of your time.
Yeah, sure.
And take advantage of all those little time slots that would open up when, for example, restrictions were lessened and all that sort of stuff. So essentially, that's how we managed to shoot any of the, you know, the 4 videos that we did in the last 12 months. It was just because literally any time we had a break in the restrictions, it was like, right, we've got the idea, let's get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. And what about recording music? How did you manage to do that during this time?
Aye, so well, the thing we our band is that, and again, you know, I'm certainly not going to moan about our position, right? Because I know that everybody was in a similar boat. The tricky thing we our band is that we literally got together in the January before the first lockdown, right? Okay. So we've not even played a gig yet, but the good thing is that what we did do is when we had maybe like 8 demos, kind of the rough kind of bare bones of what the songs were going to be. As soon as we get the first sort of break in lockdown restrictions, it was bang in the studio, and literally we recorded all the drums for all the demos. And then it meant that if we did go back into lockdown, which we eventually did, we could then at least use the drums that we recorded in the studio and then record the rest, you know, at home. So, and you can see behind me, I've got a fairly decent wee setup here as well, and some of the boys have. So mainly remotely, but the drums are all done in studio.
That's really forward thinking, because I know that is the longest and the tricky part is to get them down. Totally. And you can hear from the single and your previous singles that it sounds to me like you're a band who must be choking to play live to get that sound out to people.
Honestly, I mean, myself and Joe, the bassist, and Kyle, the drummer, we were in a band called Oceans before, and also Enemies of the State a few years before that. But so to go from like literally, I mean, I'm 34 now, and literally playing gigs, you know, all the time from 16 years of age up to, a year or so ago. So to then be choking to get back in and then have that taken away, it's been a bit of a nightmare. But as I say, we didn't want to just kind of sit in our hands and just wait. So that's why we were like, well, let's just put the music out. And it means that hopefully when we do play that first gig, we'll at least have a good few songs there that hopefully people are going to know, sing back, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's put us in a good position, and I'm quite glad that we've kind of used our time properly. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And with that in mind, do you have any hopes of playing live soon, or is that still a bit down the line?
No. I think so. We were actually talking about it today, and I think, you know, what we wanted to do is, you know, get this 4th single out, get Ultraviolet out, and then pretty much as soon as that's in the world and it's there, we'll essentially just commit to as many rehearsals as we can. And I'm hoping, and I did say today to the boys, I want to be playing the first gig by early December.
Right.
That's hopefully what we'll be aiming for. And again, it would be good that if we can get another single to kind of coincide with that as well. So, but yeah, it's just a matter of time and whether we can get, you know, whether we can get to do what we want to do for the next video, because we've got loads of ideas that we want to do. So just a matter of whether we can execute them on time and stuff like that. But I think by the end of the year.
And having put out these kind of series of singles and talking about another one coming up, is the idea to be an album further down the line? What are your plans?
Well, do you know, I tend to think that that's probably not the best way to go nowadays. Anyway, I think the musical landscape is kind of changing now to the point where I think that people, you know, and I'm one of them. You know, I'm like, how I consume my music is that I think people very rarely want to hear an album now. I think that the best way to do it is just single after single after single and keep doing that. And I think to keep doing that, I think an album is maybe something we'd maybe do, you know, later down the line, but certainly not in the next 2 years. I would say I'm happy to try and put out 6 singles a year.
Yeah, you
know, that I think that's a good way of doing it. But do you know what? I don't know. I really don't know. It's just one of those ones where I'm in kind of in the writing zone right now. So I'm literally banging out song ideas left, right, and centre at the moment. I'm not very prolific. So I usually go through like 3-month periods of just writing, and then I'll get nothing for 6 months. So I don't know. I really don't know. It might be that we've got enough ideas to go and do that. But as I say, it'll probably not be in the next 2 years anyway.
But is the kind of idea behind your thinking, at least at the moment, is to get as many great, strong songs to pick from and then have a really strong album if you do bring one out, rather than
that's just exactly
everything that you've recorded on one place?
Aye, no, and that's exactly it. Because it's not to say that every song idea is going to become a single. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think it. You know, at the moment we're probably sitting on about 15 songs for now. Mm-hmm. doesn't mean that every one of them are going to make the cut. And I also have a habit of writing songs and then ripping all those songs up and then turning them into something new if I think of something that I think it could be better suited elsewhere. So yeah, I think that at the moment it's probably just a matter of picking which ones we think are going to put us in a good sort of position to kind of springboard the band. Because like I say, we're now coming from a position where we're going to have 4 singles out and we've never played a gig. So right now we're just thinking about how can we springboard the band. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And going back to the very first question, when we were talking about Interstellar, it's quite interesting to have influence that isn't music, to have an influence from a book or from a film. Is that something that has influenced you in the past?
I absolutely. I mean, pretty much anything, almost everything I write about will be something that I've either read or I've watched. And and I remember reading the book The Alchemist for the first time.
Oh yeah.
By Paulo Coelho, and I was young when I read it, but that book literally changed my life, and I probably get about 10 songs out of that book as well. So yeah, it's always something that I try and be influenced by everything. You know what I mean? Literally everything you see is going to give you something to work off. But film and books are where I'm always at anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. And so you're writing. You're the main songwriter for the band. Does anyone else help out in that way, or is it basically this is your songs?
No, not at all. In fact, it's very democratic. There's no everybody kind of gets their say and all that sort of stuff. Generally what I'll do is, behind me here, I've got guitars and stuff like that. So I'll usually just get the bare bones of a song down, literally just on an acoustic guitar, and then we'll kind of look at demoing it. And then once we've got a kind of rough demo, that's when we can then take it into the studio for rehearsal and all that sort of stuff. And then that's when, we can then can really pick it apart. And Kyle, our drummer is incredible. So he's we just kind of let Kyle do his thing, because you kind of trust when somebody's a really good musician, you just kind of trust them to do their thing, and that's certainly how we work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were saying that you really just got together before the first lockdown started. So was that kind of bond of trust that must have formed pretty quickly?
Well, as I say, myself, Kyle and Joe, we were in Oceans before, so we kind of, we already kind of knew each other, knew how we worked. We already had a tried and tested method for working. The guitarist that we got in was our mate Adam, who is also the guitarist in a band called Horizons. And they were actually, I went to see them on Saturday at the Garage, and that was my first gig since the old pandemic, so that was great. So again, Adam is a great guitarist. His kind of background is more sort of metal-y kind of stuff, so you know yourself probably that generally those kind of guitarists are very technical.
Yes.
So again, you kind of leave people to it, but again, getting Adam into our group, we were already mates, so it was dead easy just to kind of gel together.
Fantastic. Well, Kris, I could talk to you for so much longer, but I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. But thanks very much for taking time to have a chat.
No, I appreciate it, and honestly, thanks for having us. And as always, mate, I am an avid listener. I've discovered quite a few artists, from your show. So I appreciate you having me on, mate. So yeah, much appreciated.
Thanks very much. That's great to hear. And this is another track from Only You. This is, what's it called? This is Void.
Yes.